Where is it? Hi, this is Ed, and welcome back to Global TV Talk Show. So my very special guest today is Dr. Andrew Woods. He's based up in Vancouver, Canada, and he is a professor. And he's going to be talking about his books. His original book is called The Audacious Ask: Entrepreneurship and the Power of the Ask. He's going to tell you all about it, but I have to tell you up front that I was honored to be one of his guests. And so we'll be right back. All right, here we are. I am today in Phoenix, Arizona, on assignment, and Dr. Andrew Woods is up in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Welcome, Dr. Woods.
Hi there, how are you?
Good to see you.
Good,
So,
likewise.
coffee. Oh, you can see it. Yeah, there we go.
I
Coffee.
got it. How's Phoenix?
It is gloriously clear and hot. It's,
Hmm.
it's about 95 at this moment. And
Wow.
yeah, yesterday afternoon it went up to about 108. And
Wow.
then at night it goes down to about 80. So you need the air on most of the time when not in the pool. But the beautiful clear and we're anyway, welcome back to the show.
Appreciate it.
Dr. Andrew Woods, tell us about you being a professor of management, doctor of management, and who are you teaching?
Currently, I teach at two different schools. I teach at one university in Vancouver, Canada called University of Canada West, University of Canada West. I teach on their MBA program and I teach small business management. So I kind of infuse a little bit of motivation and like, hey, there's another opportunity here. You can go down this route and set up your own business. We dive into sort of a lot of the technical sides of running your own business, but a lot of the, as I mentioned, motivational and soft skill sides. You know, understanding how to sell, understanding how to negotiate, understanding how to present yourself well. And then there's another school in Vancouver called British Columbia Institute of Technology, and I teach the small business management class there as well, which is effectively entrepreneurship, if you will, or side hustles, and we cover all of it. So it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it, and they actually pay me for it, and I probably do it for free. I love it so much.
So the feedback you're getting is
Don't
direct.
tell them.
So the feedback you're getting from doing that and the emotions and the mental rewards for being a teacher is not work, making it not work for you. I mean,
Yeah.
but not work meaning it's fun and you
It's
do it.
fun. It's loads of fun. I think the greatest thing is when they come back to me, some of these students, and they say, I had one guy come back to me very recently and said, I took your advice. I've restarted a business that my brother had, or I've started a business my brother had in Mexico, and we did window cleaning. And he said, I took your advice and I walked into places all around town and I said, I can do a better job and I can do a job at a better rate. You want to give me a chance? And the guy, I don't know how he did it, but he managed to secure himself a major university here in Vancouver, and he's flying. You know, I've got a lot of side hustles. I got people importing clothing from India and Sri Lanka, and you know, and I that's the part that I truly love is seeing them actually take these ideas and run with them.
So it's practical.
Yeah, very practical.
Okay, so now get me straight here and inform the audience exactly what your PhD is.
I did a doctorate of management in entrepreneurship. So I was living in China at the time, as you actually know. But I was living in China for a while, and I became fascinated with how the Chinese style of management was different from the Western, if you will, style of management, although there's some overlaps. So I spent a lot of time doing a deep dive into these organizations that were small startups in Shanghai in the technology space. I had to narrow it down considerably and I really was studying what kind of made these guys tick. And I've just for possibly, I'm not sure why I've done this. It could be insanity, but I've signed up to do another doctorate, which is in artificial intelligence, because I'm so obsessed with artificial intelligence right now and how it can change, well, everything, but most notably our work life. that I've signed up to do that. So
Oh, it's
I'm,
so
I'm,
fascinating.
I'm
Wow.
keeping busy. I'm keeping busy.
Yeah, a second doctorate. Well, I mean, that's the correct way that I'm taking notes here as a reporter. A second doctorate.
Well, it's called the Doctorate of Management. It's with a school in the UK. My daughter lives in the UK, so I was kind of she's about to start medical school, and I kind of wanted to have a reason to go. I always have a reason to go, but I wanted to have a reason where I had to go and just be there more often. So,
Oh, that's
and
good for you.
yeah,
Yeah. So when you would be in London, would you conduct a class for your Vancouver students? Would you do it virtually?
we have that option. I much prefer what would a politician say, pressing the flesh, I think is the expression they use. I like being in front of the group, and I think my enthusiasm comes out more when I'm in a live group. But I have had situations where I've had to conduct the classes online, but they are face to face.
In person and face to face, being a cub reporter here, writing things down the old way, and
Yeah,
it's being recorded. Yeah.
got my
So,
answer.
just a media adjustment, audience, stand by. So, I'd like to see your full head, and right now the screen is blocking your head out. Yeah, okay, that's perfect. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so now how long have you been living and working in Vancouver?
I came to Vancouver. I left China it was very bizarre timing because I started hearing all these rumors about a illness that was going to pass quite quickly. I think you know where we're going here, and I got on the last plane out of Shanghai before they locked down the city, and I went to London and went on to Wales actually and spent a bit of time there and got caught in the lockdown there. So it was quite a slow process of eventually getting here. But that was early to 2020.
Oh my God. Early COVID 2020. Yeah, that was probably in early March because I produced my last of the 30-year cycle of producing live events. February 25 in Manhattan, inside the accounting firm RSM in Times Square. Uh, and and then February 27 was the final
Hmm.
that turned out to be the final one. Pre-COVID, oh, as COVID was coming on strong. February 27 was down in Washington, D.C. on Embassy Row. And it was a sold out event. We had government people, we had embassy people, we had business people and NGOs inside the meeting space, which was really elegant. I'll just take a minute. Is inside the historic home of U.S. President Woodrow Wilson,
Wow.
which
Okay.
was one of these, 100-year-old mansions with an acre of land in the backyard in downtown DC. You can imagine this on Embassy Row. It was really fancy. And so I was really honored to be able to do that. And our host was, um, I'm not going to name names, but the director of the museum, now former home, now it's a museum. And she was so gracious in hosting us, and it turned out to be the last meeting in 3.5, 4 years. And I went home flew across the country to San Diego uh, on Southwest flights, and they were empty. I was like one of the only
Yeah,
passengers on the
I remember that time.
plane, and I got really good service. They passed out the booze and peanuts.
Fantastic.
And about a week later, I started learning how to do Zoom, and here we
Yeah.
are. So, talking about survival and entrepreneurship, which we'll get into more in a minute, but I didn't know what to do. And so had been producing radio shows, as you know, and my partner at the time, Paul, was very instrumental. He was a radio engineer and the voiceover professional actor, reader, and he taught me how to do Zoom. And then he moved on to other things, but and I started just taking over and doing them. Again, not knowing what I'm doing, I can't even upload the screen share. So I get fingers that don't work, right? But I know how to look at the camera and like
Perfect.
get people to want to do it. Like you, busy
Perfect.
people. Okay, so I'd like you to hold up that Audacious Ask book, and let's get into that. And that's the cover. And this guy invited me to be one of the entrepreneurs featured in the book. And I really am grateful. Thank you.
Of course. Pleasure.
Okay, but why did you ask me to do that? What, I mean, we have conversations with friends, but um, is it because I had the guts to do something with practically no money, self-financed, and a lot of know-how in things related, but not specifically in producing a talk show
Well, it's because
on Zoom?
I've known you for a while, as you mentioned, and I know that you're an entrepreneur and you've been running your business for many years, and there's been different businesses along the way, and it just made a lot of sense. I mean, you know more than anyone the ups and downs, the challenges, the good months, the bad months, the good years, the bad years, the and you probably understand the wonderful feeling of success and the wonderful learning of failure. I mean, I was saying this to the students the other day. Failure is not so bad if you learn a lot from it and you're able to apply that to the next venture. Actually, it's wonderful. That gets a little bit of a odd response, but I think it's some of the great failures in my business career have been ones I've learned from and used, sort of parlayed those into better experiences and learn from them.
So let's talk about the audacious ask. What makes it audacious? Is just that because there's an imposter syndrome involved?
No, it's more along the lines of taking chance. So entrepreneurs naturally take chance as it is, but I try and instill this in students and friends and family is that, if you ask for things, you might get them. So I used to be so scared to go into I thought it was, and maybe it was my upbringing, but I thought it was uncouth or rude to go into a shop and if you see something you like, say, well, hey, listen, can you do that for 20% off? Can you do that for 50% off? And now I go in for the kill all the time. I say, can you do 50%? I got cash in my pocket. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I learned that when I was living in China, the art of negotiation, because every market there, you go and they'll start with a price and it's a negotiation. They expect a negotiation. When conducting business there, they would expect a negotiation. So you would start in and then you would know that you had to start in higher because they would try and bring you down. So it's really about asking. It's about, asking, what's the worst that can happen, Ed? What's the worst that can happen? I say this to the students, what's the worst that can happen? Three things. They can accept, that's fantastic. They can reject. I always ask why you're rejecting though. Or they can counter offer and come back with something else. But putting yourself out there and asking for things will put you in a much better position to move forward.
Put in a counter offer and and do you smile with it?
Always smile.
Okay. So what would you call that? That's the audacious ask, but there's a mental discipline that's required.
I think people just need to step out of their comfort zone and again realize that there's nothing bad that can happen here. Um, I encourage so many students come to me and I meet with them afterwards one-on-one and I ask them, what are your challenges? These are international students. I forgot to mention that. So they're all coming from all over the world. And so they have the cultural challenges that they're learning as they go.
So, but if you have Oriental, Asian, Chinese students, they get it. They're born with it, right?
They get it. They get that part, but then they're kind of suffer from something where they believe there's a power distance. So I don't know if you're familiar with Gerd
Ah,
Hofstede and
you mean
that.
distance
Yeah,
of standing?
the power distance. So, I say, well, did you phone the company? You put out 100 resumes and you're getting no reply, but did you pick up the phone and phone them? Did you staple a Starbucks card to the resume? This is a far out one, and I had one do this, and it worked. One student do this. Did you staple a Starbucks card and said, I know you're busy. Why don't you have a coffee? And when you're having coffee, we could just take 2 minutes to look over my resume. I'd really appreciate it. I got the interview and the job.
And he came forward that, and nobody probably does that,
Nobody does that.
but except one.
Except for one, yeah. And the other one that's very useful is put your resume into a FedEx. Spend $20 or whatever it costs to send a registered mail. Someone's going to sign for it. Someone's going to read it. You're competing against 1,000 people, so you need to. Part of the ask is putting yourself out there. You need to find a way to differentiate yourself from everybody else. And this is applicable not just in job hunting. It's about entrepreneurship. It's about really everything.
Okay, audience, take your notes. I'm doing it right now. Starbucks, clip to resume, clip to, I'm not going to be able to read my own writing here. I'm writing so fast. And then FedEx, the resume.
Or if you run a business, you want to get your brochure in front of the CEO, then pop it into a FedEx. Spend that 20, $30. It's worth it if that's what you want to do.
Right, it could be
They're
worth
gonna
thousands.
they're gonna read it, they're gonna see it. But
Yeah.
most people just drop it off and it gets put into a garbage or you know what I mean? And you need follow up all the time. And I think the art of asking or the audacious ask is to follow up and to make audacious asks, to just ask for things that are out of the norm.
Audacious. Now that's an English word, right? High,
Yeah.
high English, right?
Yes,
Audacious ass. Now, what would be an American version of the word audacious?
it's a good question.
Think about
Uh,
that. Audience, we're going to get Dr. Andrew Woods to tell us.
we're gonna get them thinking. Um,
What's audacious? What's a synonym for audacious? Ballsy?
it'd be a more crude synonym, yeah. But that would be perfect, actually, if one could
Uh,
use that term.
okay, what's a female version?
Um, well, I've met plenty of ballsy females, so I think it's applicable to all,
All right, good, good.
applicable to all.
Okay, show that cover one more time and tell us about the subtext there, the small print on the bottom. I can't read it.
Sure. Entrepreneurship and the power of the ask. And I wrote this with a gentleman who I believe you've met, who is
Yeah,
Tori Witchar.
yeah.
And we were just two instructors, college instructors, university instructors. And we realized that nobody was doing these things. They had great business ideas, but they weren't putting themselves out there. So we decided to line up entrepreneurs such as yourself, but we spoke to some people that so I'll give you an example. The Shark Tank, a very famous show in the United States, and also you might not know this, very famous show in India. There's an Indian version of it.
Uh,
A lot of my students are from India, and they watch the Indian version, and now are watching the American version. And I would watch when all these students and everyone else is out having a good time. I'm at home on a Friday night watching Shark Tank, and each time, which is part of an audacious ask, each time someone makes a pitch, I write them. I say on LinkedIn, that was a fantastic pitch. Really loved it. Love to connect with you. Love to talk to you a little bit about entrepreneurship. Again, what's the worst they can do? They can ignore me, which is rejection. They can say, yeah, I'm too busy, which would be the counter offer. I'll get back to you later. Or they can say yes. And almost all of them said, let's talk. So in the book, I speak with a guy called Nizar Akil, who's a very interesting fellow who was missing his workouts when he was traveling. He was working in Japan, actually, and then moved back to the States in the automotive industry, originally from Detroit. And he set up a business where he's got a very compact little kit that gives you a full workout. It gives you resistance as if you're in a major gym, up to the high levels of in a very portable tube. He got an investment from Mark Cuban of, I believe, $1 million on Shark Tank, but also one of his business partners was Shaquille O'Neal. So I asked him, how did you become business partners with Shaquille O'Neal? And it was an audacious ask. He was displaying his sports equipment at the Las Vegas big show there. I think it's a technology show. I can't recall what it's
yeah,
called.
yeah.
Big show.
Consumer electronics.
That's the one. That's the one. He was showing his thing because it has an app that goes with it as well to track your fitness goals. And he was displaying it there, and Shaquille O'Neal walked by and he stood up on his table and he yelled, Shaq, come back here, come back. And he turned around, he came back, he explained it to him. He tells the story in the book. 3 days later, he was in his living room and they were negotiating a deal to become partners. So, if he didn't stand up on that table, he just would have kept walking. It never would have happened.
So a lot of people might have a good idea, but maybe they haven't thought it through enough, and they're a little shy of being put down by somebody who's rich or famous, um, and so they're afraid to ask because of personal concern, um, being afraid, um, and it's a mental stigma, self-imposed.
Self-imposed, yeah. It is self-imposed.
Audience, do you have any questions?
Or
What's your
asks.
phone? What's your phone number? How can people get in touch with you?
Well, they can go on my website, which is askconsulting.ca.
The big
Ask
ask,
ask
ASK.
ASK Consulting, all one word, askconsulting.ca.
Okay, so will AI replace entrepreneurs?
I don't know if it'll replace entrepreneurs, but AI will replace a lot of us, unfortunately. But that's a good thing because we will have to figure out new things to do. It will advance our technology, our world. I think a lot of people are either scared of AI right now or avoiding AI, and neither should be done. One needs to embrace AI because it's a partner. It's a partner. It can do so much to help in efficiency. It can do so much to help you in business in general. And yes, it can replace some entry level to mid level positions, and maybe in the future can. But it will never replace soft skills. I don't see a time when artificial intelligence will be able to display empathy, will be able to have a level of what's the word I'm looking for? Emotional intelligence. We'll be able to sell, but sell and negotiate by understanding your drivers. It's just
Okay,
not there.
let's just go back to the first of those three statements you just made. You said, and I got it down, AI is your partner. And then after that, you said those three elements of emotion and
Emotional
personal
intelligence, empathy, soft skills.
soft skills. Okay, so it all comes to prompts, doesn't it?
Well, generative AI is about prompts, and you get massively different results in the prompts that you input. Um, I could write AI. I'm going on Ed's talk show. It might even know you. I don't know. I've never asked. Let's ask later. I'm going on Ed's show, and I'm talking about X, Y, and Z. Give me some good answers, or give me some good rebuttals, or you could do the same thing, and it can do that. But if you change the prompt to say, I enjoy going on Ed's show. It's quite humorous. Give me some prompts. It will then change them to make them funny or make them so just the changing of one or two words, which can be frustrating too. If you program something else in, it might then change the whole going back the whole chain. So it doesn't. It's very a lot of us assume that generative AI, has some form of emotion or understand. So we speak to it as we speak to humans and don't realize that it's just only going on data that it's already been fed into it. So it doesn't have any ability to think. It produces incredible work, but it doesn't have the ability to think or you know process other than what it's been told to think and process.
Now, you mentioned generative AI is about prompts. What
Hmm.
other AI is there? There's other AIs, right?
Oh, of course. I mean, there's robotics. I mean, I'm focusing right now on generative AI, but I plan on expanding it. But I mean, AI is everywhere, really. I mean, what's strange, Ed, is I lived in China for a long time, and China allegedly is behind the United States in the design of AI but not in the implementation. So I can recall 2018 going and getting a coffee, and I had a robotic arm making the coffee, and it was delicious, I might add, but it was just in a little window, and you'd scan your phone against it, and it would make the coffee as you wanted. Um, and of course, they had, I would cross the street there and there'd be a sign up with my picture on it, circled, saying you're jaywalking in Chinese. I mean, just the level of implementation there. They already have cities with autonomous cars that are actually going around constantly, whereas we're kind of catching up on that. So they seem to be certain places seem to be very far ahead in the implementation of artificial intelligence, yet we still hold the pole position in the design or the coming up with some of these ideas. So,
So hold up that front cover, please.
sure.
Okay, soft skills in the age of AI, enhancing human potential in a tech-driven world. And what is that image that we're looking at on underneath there?
That is a robot's hand connecting with a human's hand.
Is that in space or just in a dark room?
I'd have to ask the designer who designed it, and I probably
Okay.
should have asked. Literally, this is actually supposed to come out 2025. In fact, even the copyright is written 2025, but I finished it sooner than I expected, and wanted to get some copies, so I produced some copies for that, and will be available in 2025, probably on Amazon. Although I'm thinking it's something I want to give to my clients as a gift. And the idea from this is that I've been training soft skills. I've had the chance to train people in soft skills, 22 countries, 4 continents over 25 years. So I get around, so to speak, and uh, and I've been doing this for ages. And I teach things like customer service, so how to create exceptional levels of customer service. I call it creating legendary customer service. I teach people how to sell, negotiate, make powerful presentations. All of these things that AI is not going to be able to replicate. So if you want to compete with AI, you're never going to beat it on, entry level clerical certain things. It will, you know, it will beat you every time. But it's going to take years to develop these critical soft skills, which society is actually lacking anyway. But I keep telling students and businesses that if that's got to be your edge, you got to be able to really, really hone your soft skills so that you have an edge over the competition, which is artificial intelligence. Excuse me.
Your edge equals soft skills. Okay, why don't you enumerate two or three or four soft skills? You mentioned emotional intelligence. So
Emotional,
what does that mean in English?
well, a very simple description is sort of the way I view it as the way you deal with scenarios. So you have EQ and you have IQ. EQ means emotional quotient or emotional intelligence. It was a term, I believe it was brought up by Daniel Goleman. I could be wrong, but I know he wrote a fantastic book on it. And it's all about how you react to certain scenarios. How leaders, there's certain types of leaders, ones that want to keep you down and ones that see your value and want to train. There's one I remember very well was Richard Branson, Sir Richard Branson of the Virgin Group. And he said, I might get this quote wrong, I'm going to try my best. He said, what if you, what is it? What if you train your people and they leave? And the response is, what if you don't train them and they stay?
I
So
know.
that would be an emotional intelligence, high emotional intelligence there. Is that the idea that, and I'm not always the best at this. I have to remind myself is this idea of, like overreacting to things, not thinking things through. It's just having a higher level of understanding of emotions.
Okay, and so the edge, soft skills, I'm reading this, emotional intelligence, EQ, how you react to certain scenarios.
Hmm.
Okay, and then you mentioned another one.
I believe sort of customer service, so showing empathy when dealing with your customers as opposed to them being numbers, which humans can treat customers like numbers as well. But it's the edge that you have because you can't teach a robot to understand like, wow, we waited in line for 12 hours in 90-degree weather, 110-degree weather, whatever it is, and and we got to the end of the line and then the ride closed. The computer's not going to know. It's just going to say ride closed. It closes at 6. Answer will be ride closed at 6. You know what I mean? Too bad, basically. Whereas a human is going to turn around and say, I understand. I can feel the frustration that you did. What can I do to make it better? So it's that added, but you still need, the point that I'm trying to get across is the AI will help you in so many areas to be more productive, but you still need that human touch. So it's a partner, not a enemy, and not a competitor necessarily.
Okay, so uh, I'm a headline writer for 50 years. Okay, so I'm writing down headlines.
Okay.
All right, so the first one is emotional intelligence, EQ. how you react to certain scenarios and then examples. And now this one we just talked about is customer service, right? Showing empathy. And the key question that I took away from your 200 word thing was, what can I do to make it better?
Yeah.
Bingo. Uh, I don't remember. I'm not an AI, and some things go right through. So, was there something that I missed
No,
beyond
I think you did a
the
pretty good
showing
job.
empathy? Okay, okay.
I think you
So,
did a pretty
I
good
mean,
job.
thinking of headlines, right? Okay, okay. So let's move on now to going deeper into AI, and I'm getting lost. What am I supposed to ask you? AI is your partner. That's the main headline.
Yeah, for
Okay,
sure.
so what's beyond um, EQ and customer service, empathy? All right, what can I do to make it better? That's beautiful simplicity,
Mm.
and it's it's not a feminine thing; it's a human thing, right?
Mm. So I'm just starting my AI journey, as I told you, and I'm going to be still doing a deep dive into it. So there's a lot of simplicity coming from me as well. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just starting here.
So earlier, I'm going to change the subject while we're thinking about all that, but you mentioned walking around Shanghai or wherever, one of the other cities, and you jaywalked, and there's a big Times Square size screen that came up showing you and your bald head. Or did you have hair at that time? And you were
No, it's
jaywalking.
still a bald head, yes.
That's amazing. Now, how do you feel, and how do people react to that? I'm going to say an American thing, invasion of privacy or
So,
co government control,
you
looking
know,
at people walking down the street.
I get asked this question a lot by
Oh,
people, and the sort of the freedom factor, and you know, I think that there's an unwritten rule, and this is well documented, but there's an unwritten rule that, you know, grow our economy, and we don't really care about government overreach. And
that's good.
that's now what's interesting is the economy right now is in a rough spot in China, so they're struggling. So therefore, from everything I've read recently and from the conversations I've had with people that are friends that are still there, um, this could be a challenge. But nobody really objected, and there was a lot of people that would say to me when I would say, "Wow, this is weird" or "This is wrong," and they would say, "Yeah, there's lots of cameras everywhere, aren't there? But look at our crime rates." So my wife would come home from her office if there was an office due, and she'd come home 11, 10:30 at night, 11 at night, and she'd say, "Oh, I'll walk home. Don't worry about it. This is a city of, you know, 25 million plus." And she would just say, "Oh, I'll walk home." Now, if Vancouver's relatively safe, but I still worry about these things. So we live literally right beside the train station. If she comes late, I'll go down to the train station and grab her because, so there's pros and cons of all this. Is that sometimes, and a lot of people will say to you, maybe there's too much freedom in the Western world. Like they don't understand certain things. My wife doesn't quite grasp the concept of strikes. We have a lot of strikes going on here right now. The trains are on strike. The airplanes are about to go on strike. And it's like, well, why? Why are they doing this? Somebody should crack down and say, no, go do your job. So it's just different ways of looking at things. And we often look at things through the lens of the Western world and maybe see things differently. But having some time, and I would never refer to myself as an expert, although I spent 10 years there. There's so much I need to learn. I'm just scratching the surface of life in China. But I think a lot of people really feel that the government, up until recently, was doing a fabulous job, and the economy had been growing at such an incredible rate, and everybody was rising out of poverty. I mean, the poverty alleviation. So I think people have a very positive spin on it and don't see it as the way I see it as like, what a horrible intrusion. I'm on this screen and I didn't ask to be put on this screen. And who am I going to sue? Who am I going to talk to? It's just a different mentality.
So I remember a few years ago when we were in conversation, not, I don't think it was on TV, but in person maybe, but God forbid in person. And maybe in Seattle or in
Okay.
Vancouver when I did a meeting, or Silicon Valley, I think you spoke in also. But um, I'm losing my head here. Yeah, uh, you were talking about at that time um, creating energy and freedom of team building, people coming together rather than be pigeonholed into cubicles, and more. It's developed into workstations or open floor plan rather than cubicles, so people collaborate
Oh,
more.
I think I know where you're going here. I worked as a consultant for a company in Hong Kong, and they were using something called HBDI, which is the Herman Brain Dominance instrument, Herman Brain Dominance Instrument, HBDI. And it's one of these various psychometric testing tools that's out there. And it divides the brain into different quadrants. So it looks at left brain and right brain. So left brain being like logical, sequential, analytical, right brain being more your creative types and musicians, public speaking, these sort of things. And we actually took the office and carved it up by people's HBDIs who would be suited to work alongside who else. So it was a fascinating experiment. I mean, we didn't really, this was probably before my academic career, so we didn't really uh, um, research it as such. It was more like, hey, is this working or is this not working? We weren't really documenting a lot of it, but we found that the creative minds, when a creative mind was in a group of non-creative minds, it sparked a lot of amazing conversations. And it reminds me of what I did couple of days ago in class, which is Lego Serious Play. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No,
Um, no, it's a fantastic tool where the Lego company was going bankrupt 25 years ago, and they all sat around and said, "How can we monetize this and get adults involved in this?" So they created a tool where you use Lego to build prototypes, and it's there's hundreds of millions of different combinations of blocks. So people begin to they're posed a question. So I posed the class the question the other day is we're working with a client, a small business client. And I said, what are the obstacles to their success? Build me a model out of Lego to show me the obstacles and the storytelling that came out of that. And what was fascinating is that you can really pull things out of people. So there's people in my class that I didn't even know if they spoke because we were week 8 and they just hid from me and never would answer questions. And we're always like this. And even if I'd asked them directly, would just go, no, 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 no. And they were the loudest people, you know. So we divided the office going back to Hong Kong into how it would benefit to have a creative, and then we took it further as how are we going to have the ambiverts, extroverts, and introverts working alongside each other and getting the most out of it, and not having people dominate the creative process. So a lot of these things work, trial and error.
going back to your time in China, I remember one time we did a talk show and you're explaining about inside a supermarket how the Chinese in modern, say, Shanghai, uh, um, and I'm mispronouncing that word. How should is it Shanghai?
No, Shanghai's fine. Shanghai's fine.
Shanghai.
Yeah.
Okay. So people, people, men and women, shopping in a supermarket, in 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 the center of the beautiful city that they built. Um, it's different than in America or in Vancouver. The supermarkets are different, right? And people shop differently. Isn't that correct?
They shop differently. There still are sort of what you might call Western style markets. But for example, I had the opportunity, which was amazing, to live with my wife and her family on a traditional laneway in Shanghai. And every morning, 5 a.m., her father would go out and go to the wet market and negotiate and haggle and get the best meats and the best. So they have a lot of these wet markets, but they also have typical supermarkets. And I think the video you're referring to is I was helping a couple of Canadian companies. One was a beer company
Right.
to establish themselves, and I did this for a little while. Actually, it was sort of a side back to entrepreneurship. It was a side hustle of another side hustle, if that makes any sense. So China's fascinating like that. It's just a lot of people hustling and doing kind of side hustles, as I say, and running little businesses, and then pivoting. You mentioned pivoting at the beginning about how you pivoted into the online with your own business, changing all the time. So someone approached me and said, "Hey, what can you do? We've got a beer here in Vancouver." And I had mentioned that I'm quite fortunate. My wife's family has a chain of grocery stores across Zhejiang province, which is just below Shanghai, about 150 plus grocery stores. So there's a great opportunity there. And we were demonstrating using focus groups and also on the floor handing out products to people. A little less common in China than it is in the US or Canada. And it was interesting because the tastes are very different. So the beer that traditionally was a beer that the Vancouver brewer told me was a beer that women liked and men didn't like, and was quite more of a fruity taste. And their generalization was that was the flip side. The women were saying they liked the hoppy beer in China, and the men were saying they liked the one that had the more fruit taste. But where it was really funny is a company approached me that did Canadian maple syrup, which is one of our key products. And we did a focus group to see whether people liked these cookies that were made from maple syrup. They were all spitting them out on the floor because they were so sweet and sickly to their taste.
Ugh.
So yeah, we had a lot of fun doing that. But there's a lot of differences. What's interesting about China is the differences in taste regionally. So you can go 100 miles down the road and the food will be completely different from 100 miles in another direction. Whereas you have that in the United States, but you have it to a lesser extent. Of course, food in the South is different from food in the North, but not such small distances to travel to have such a radical change in the foods.
Dr. Andrew Woods, thank you for being my special guest today. Please come back. Let's do this chapter 2.
Yeah, I love it. Love to anytime. Great
Okay,
to see you again.
what is your website people can go to?
Yeah, it's Ask Consulting, ASK Consulting.ca, all one word.
Great. Thanks. See you again.
Fantastic.
Okay, this is Ed signing off. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.